I need you to decide something before you keep watching. Because if this story is true, then reality isn't breaking, it's updating. And the reason I'm saying that is because a listener sent me a voice note that I swear I've never heard before, except I already knew every word, like my brain had cached it. And it all started with one night that was supposed to be just a trip, a short one, a weird one, but it didn't end when it was supposed to. Welcome back to Mind Glitch Stories. I'm Ryan. Before we begin, this video is not meant to advocate or glorify the use of any substances. It is intended strictly as an educational exploration of altered states of consciousness. Please, do not attempt to recreate anything discussed here. These are listener-submitted stories. I write them the way fear actually feels, because the details are what make it stick. Tonight's story is called The DMT Trip That Changed Reality. The listener asked me to call him Evan. Evan's not a hardcore anything. He's not trying to be a shaman or a guru. He works from home, drinks too much coffee, and doom scrolls at night. The most dangerous thing about him is that he overthinks. He told me he'd been watching the same kind of content you've probably seen. People talking about DMT like it's a door. Evan didn't care what it meant. He cared whether it felt real. And he wrote this sentence in all caps. I didn't expect reality to remember me back. Evan cleaned his room like he was expecting company. No music, no candles, no vibes. Just a dim lamp, a glass of water, phone on silent, and a cheap digital clock across the room. He told one friend, just in case, "If I don't text you back in an hour, call me." Then he took the first hit. It wasn't like the movies. No coughing, no immediate explosion of colors. Just a sharp, metallic taste in the back of his throat and a heavy silence that filled the room. The air didn't move anymore. It felt thick, like he was breathing through a filter. He forced himself to take the second one. That's when the room began to vibrate. Not a sound, but a frequency. He said the first feeling wasn't spiritual, it was technical. Like a device powering on in a room that had been dead for years. The cheap digital clock across the room didn't just show the time. It started to flicker in sync with his own heartbeat. At this point, his lungs felt like they didn't exist, and his hands were shaking so hard he could barely hold on. He remembered what everyone told him. You have to take the third one to break through. With everything he had left, he took the third hit. The moment he exhaled, the world snapped. It was like a high-tension wire finally breaking. He looked at his hands, and for a split second, they didn't look like skin and bone. They looked like high-resolution renders that hadn't finished loading. That's when the glitch started. Evan realized he wasn't just watching his room anymore. He was watching the source code of his own existence. The air began to pixelate, and the weight of his own name, Evan, started to feel like a file that was being corrupted. And Evan thought, okay, that's weird, but it's just my brain. Then something answered inside his thoughts. You found it. He said he expected aliens or angels, but these weren't beings with faces. He described them like geometric intelligence, shapes that felt aware. They were existing behind the room, like the room was a screen and they were standing on the other side. He knew, without being told, that they weren't surprised he was there. They were surprised it took him so long. One of them shifted, and when it did, Evan realized the shape wasn't moving through space. Space was moving around it. Then the message came again, crisp and calm. You call it time. We call it buffering. His identity started peopling. Video speaking information, name, age, job, memories, like labels being removed. Under those labels was a feeling that he'd been borrowed. They showed him a mechanism. Moments of his life laid out like tiles. Childhood, breakups, random Tuesdays. But some tiles were playing scenes he didn't remember living. Same body, different choices, like alternate drafts. And the entities gave him a choice. Go back and forget, or go back and remember. Evan chose remember. The moment he did, the entire thing snapped shut. He was back on his bed, soaked in sweat. He reached for his phone and saw a missed call from his friend. He tried to laugh it off. Then he checked his gallery. There was a photo, time-stamped during the exact window he'd been gone. It showed him staring straight at the camera, eyes wide. But Evan's phone had been face down on the bed. The photo was taken from across the room, from the direction of the clock, and in the reflection of the TV screen behind him, there was a faint shape, a geometry. Over the next week, things got weirder. His Wi-Fi name changed by itself to Scene Found. His phone autocorrected "I'm fine" to "I'm still loading." What was that became "You chose remember." Then his phone lit up with a notification. No app, no sender, just one line. Don't stare at the seam too long. His clock across the room changed. The numbers became symbols for a split second. The room wasn't glitching. It was responding. Evan ended his message with this. He's starting to notice moments feel edited, like a thought was removed mid-download. He wrote, "I think the trip didn't show me another world. I think it showed me the interface of this one. If you tell this story, Ryan, tell them not to look for the seam, because once you notice it, it notices you back." So here's my question for you. Have you ever had a moment where reality felt like it skipped? A déjà vu that felt mechanical? Tell me in the comments, what's the biggest mind glitch you've ever experienced? And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to Mind Glitch Stories. Because the scariest part isn't what happens during the trip, it's what follows you home. I'm Ryan, and I'll see you in the next one.